My name is Kansho. I'm a senior student here at the Zendo, and thank you, Bokushu. Thank you, Ryushin. Um, May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning. That is a phrase that really struck home to me this week on Thursday when I heard Rita Roshi's talk. And it doesn't really tell us what the true meaning is, does it? It just asks that we may realize the Tathagata's true meaning. And we see this a lot in our liturgy. What is the meaning of Bodhidharmas coming from the West, for example? It's a question that's often posed. And the answer is never given. The answer is up to us to find. There's a koan about that too that I really like. And it's about this guy called Elder Ting. Elder Ting stands motionless. And what Elder Ting did was he asked his teacher, Rinzai, he said, what is the meaning or the great meaning of the Buddhist teachings? And I'll come back to that koan in a second, because I've seen this Dharma talk coming off on the horizon for a while, and I was wondering for a long time what to talk about. And the events of this week have really affected me deeply. And my mind goes back to 1990, shortly after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And I was in Dublin, Ireland for a brief period. I was working in France. I came home and I saw a production of Hamlet that really blew me away. And what was remarkable about this production was not least the fact that it was all in Romanian. It was uncut in Romanian, no subtitles given, no nothing. It was just presumed you understood the play. And it was acted and directed by Ion Karamitru, who went on to become the Romanian Minister for Cultural Affairs after the fall of the dictator Ceausescu. This production had been produced under the dictatorship of Ceausescu. And Ceausescu, like many tyrants, was very paranoid. We've seen a bit of that this week. Paranoia, worried about the mobs coming to take him in the dead of night, and that kind of thing. He was very superstitious too. And so he banned all depictions of ghosts. Ghosts were not allowed. You couldn't paint them, you couldn't make movies about them. And certainly Hamlet fell into the banned category there, because the whole impetus of the play revolves around Hamlet seeing an apparition of the ghost of his father. And the ghost tells him that he was murdered by his uncle who took over the kingdom. And they got around this. The play was uncut, which is rare, but they got around this by having this guy, just mysterious guy, walked onto stage in the background, whereas Hamlet did both the ghost's speech and his own speech as some kind of like schizophrenic kind of, for want of a better word, and that's not the best way to describe it, but sort of dual personality thing, as if it was coming from his own psyche. And the guy in the background just played some atonal music on a piano very softly. And it was really chilling. But that wasn't the most remarkable thing about the production. What was really remarkable, and it's something that most people don't get when they put this play on, is that everybody knew that King Claudius killed his brother to take over the crown. And no one says anything. They all pretend it's not happened. And that line, that sort of yes man-ism, just came across so strongly. And of course, under Ceausescu, that wouldn't have been lost on the audience that saw it. So it was a very powerful play in that respect. And it was more powerful, I guess, in the fact that it came right after the Romanian Revolution, which I remember it was televised. It was one of the first things like that was televised, much like what we're seeing today is being televised. So Hamlet, of course, it's a notoriously difficult play, and nobody quite knows what it really means. There's lots of debate. There's been tons of debate and books written over the centuries about it, and Shakespeare doesn't give us all that much in the terms of clarity, and that's quite typical of a lot of Shakespeare, I think. But it's notorious, it's very complicated, not least because, well, first of all, some people believe that it's about the change from the superstitious medieval past into the more enlightened world of reason of the Renaissance. I think this is a sort of an allegory about that. Hamlet, who's educated, doubts the ghost. He doubts that he doubts the ghost. He doubts the motives of the ghost. So that becomes the basis for his indecision and what have you. He doesn't know what the ghost means. So I think the best example of this kind of, one of the things that people take away from the play is that people hear what they want to hear. It's another theme in the play, and it's demonstrated really well by this poem that the character of Polonius finds. Polonius is an assistant to King Claudius, his main advisor. But he's also the father of Ophelia, who's this beautiful girl that Hamlet is supposedly in a relationship with. And he finds a love note by Hamlet to Ophelia that he decides to read out in court as a sort of a petty way to get back at Hamlet. And I'll just read you the first 4 lines of the poem. They go, doubt thou the stars are fire, doubt that the sun doth move, doubt truth to be a liar, but never doubt I love. And there's more to the poem, but basically people take away what they want. King Claudius hears naked ambition in that poem, and Queen Gertrude hears shame. Polonius hears frustrated longing for his daughter, and his daughter Ophelia, the subject of the poem, thinks Hamlet is mad. And you could derive those meanings yourself by reading it. But if you boil down what those 4 lines say, it says, doubt everything that's true, but know that it's true, I love you. Which could mean I don't love you, or could also mean I do love you. And which is it? To be or not to be? That is the question. The maddening world of Hamlet. It's a real rabbit hole, that play, and well worth going down. But back to our practice. I bring that up because I'm talking about meaning today. And in our study text for this Ango, there's a few lines that speak to this. Shodoka says, release your hold on earth, water, fire, wind, drink and eat as you wish in eternal serenity. All things are transient and completely empty. This is the great enlightenment of the Tathagata. Transience, emptiness, and enlightenment, these are the ultimate truths of Buddhism. So it tells us what the true meaning of the Tathagata is, doesn't it? But it goes on to say, the awakened one does not seek truth, does not cut off delusion. Truth and delusion are both vacant and without form. But this no form is neither empty nor not empty. It is the truly real form of the Tathagata. So we're thrown into that sort of rabbit hole world again. As well, if it's, if it's empty and not empty, or what's that mean? I had a coworker years ago when I first came to the Zendo, and I told him that I was starting to practice Zen. He goes, "Oh, Zen, I know all about Zen." I said, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Yes. I practiced Korean Zen for many years. I even learned Korean, and I went to Korea, and I did many months in the monasteries there, and what have you." And I said, "Oh, that's great. What community do you practice with?" "Oh, I don't do it anymore." I said, well, why not? He says, "Oh, well, everything's empty. We're all one." So I figured, I go about in my daily life. I see people in the streets, see everybody here. It's all empty. We're all one. I don't really need to practice anymore. I got it. Oh. it was kind of disturbing to me, because in some respects you kind of know that going in to Zen, don't you? You know about concepts of interdependence and emptiness and what have you. But I think one of the terrifying things about things like that is that we might come to the conclusion that there's a pointlessness, a meaninglessness to life. And I think of another 17th century playwright, John Gay. He put on his tombstone, "Life's a joke, there's much to show it. I thought this once, but now I know it." And I think that to be in that space is dark. It's dark. And Shodoka says again, to live in nothingness is to ignore cause and effect. This chaos leads only to disaster. The one who clings to vacancy, rejecting the world of things, escapes from drowning, but leaps into the fire. But we all want meaning, don't we? And people often talk about the spiritual search and the spiritual search for meaning. And yes, we do search for meaning. And what is meaning? I mean, the best that I can tell, and this is my own personal meaning of meaning, if you like, is that it's a comfortable understanding that concludes a story that we tell ourselves. But its nature is, it's amorphous. It shifts and it changes according to circumstances. We always do our best to shore this story up, and when finally all evidence suggests that the story is not correct, we either reject the evidence or we decide to change the story. I mean, we see it in the extreme with like end of the world cults, right? You know, on January 17th at 2:45, a giant dragon will come down from the sky and swallow the earth. And at 2:46 on January 17th, the guy goes, "Well, actually," and another story comes in to justify them, and the end times are rescheduled, as it were. Meaning is sort of an explanation for things that we become comfortable with. It's we identify with it, and it becomes part of our identity too. What does it mean to be Irish, for example? It means a lot, I suppose. But yeah, if we derive meaning from the stories we tell ourselves, these are stories of the things that bother us, things we try to seek answers for. By the way, we're engaged in grasping in some respects when we hold on to meaning, and grasping, as we come to understand this, is the satisfactoriness at the root of our suffering. Not content with this, not content with that, convinced of this or repulsed by that. What distinguishes us, I suppose, as animals from other animals, most other animals anyway, is our capacity for narrative. Storytelling is intrinsic to our nature. It's part of our DNA, quite literally. But human society, law, government, money, nation states, these are all stories that we all have on some level a baseline agreement as to what they mean, and so we act accordingly. I mean, this week to hear Putin talk about his reasons for going into Ukraine, I mean, however unhinged and terrible they are, what I saw was a twisted, sort middle-aged guy in a lot of pain, very aggrieved, and felt justified for what he was doing, and made up a story accordingly. And he probably believes it. We all know it's total BS, but look at the power of that. That's tremendously powerful, horribly powerful in this instance. And And of course, today we have access to an unprecedented access to all of the world's stories at all times. The internet. There was a recent poll done by YouGov, a website that showed that 66% of people under 30 in the United States believe that the world is round. Just 66% people under 30 believe the world is round. The rest believe it's flat. Crazy. But back to Elder Ting. Elder Ting asked Rinzai, what is the great meaning of the Buddhist teachings? Rinzai got down from his seat, walked over to Ting, grabbed him, slapped him, pushed him away. And Ting just stood there. And a monk, you can almost imagine going, Elder Ting, why do you not bow? And so Ting bows. And while he bows, he is greatly enlightened. There's also another story about Ting in the commentary, which I love. I'll read it to you. Once in Chen Chao, Elder Ting was returning from a vegetarian feast, and he rested on a bridge. There he met 3 lecturing monks. One of them asked, what is the meaning of where the river churns deep, you must plumb the very bottom? Ting grabbed him and was about to throw him off the bridge when the other two lecturers frantically tried to rescue him, saying, stop, stop, he has offended you, Elder, but we hope you will be merciful. And Ting said, if not for you two, I would have let him plumb the very bottom. In this Dharma talk from last Thursday, Rachel Roshi spoke about the precept of not speaking ill of others. And he very eloquently brought forward how our unconditional accepting of what each moment has to offer is in actuality the precept of not speaking ill of others. Would it not be true to say that Ting, when he bowed, it was an unconditional acceptance of what that moment had to offer? And that perhaps was his insight. That Ting wanted to have that monk understand that plumbing the depths of the river was something he needed to unconditionally accept. There is a phrase that jumped out at me in the Shodoka when I first read it. It's only 3 words. It says, in our dream. In our dream. And it presupposes that we are living in a dream with those 3 words. And again, I thought about Shakespeare. In The Tempest, one of his problem plays is rarely performed. Prospero is this Faustian figure that was kind of an Elizabethan trope. The idea of this person that surrounds themselves with all of the world's knowledge and imbibes it and becomes a great sage. Prospero's conclusion is that we are the stuff that dreams are made of. And I believe Shakespeare and many writers like him were cognizant of that we try to nail down the essence of reality, it just moves away. I mean, even though we construct all these stories to justify our existence, or we tell ourselves we are, well, I'm Kansho, or I'm Tim, or I'm Tig, my Irish name, I'm whatever those things. And I still need to be cognizant of the fact that that's a story. But you can't tell the Ukrainian family, for instance, that the bombs above them are empty. That they're empty. Don't worry. You can't. They're bombs, and so searching for meaning is important. It's necessary. if I didn't understand that a red stoplight meant stop, then I'd be in trouble. But even acknowledging that our desire to understand this life is a good one. We still need to see that it is at once what it is and at once empty, and understand that, as the Shodoka says, we have that jewel of no price available to us, beyond words and thoughts. That really, at the end of the day, meaning aside, just this is all there is, right here, right now. Thank you.